All right, everybody. Hello, this is David Zamai, and I'm here for Cafecito podcast, and we're talking again about celebrating culture, and specifically here we're in North County. I got a special guest, been a role model of mine for quite some time. This is Bill de la Fuente, a former director of Comerciantes Latinos Asociados. Did I say that correctly, Bill?
Correct.
Me and my Spanglish. But welcome, Bill. This is your first time on the podcast?
Yes, David. Yeah. It sure is, and well, I guess I got to move on and use all the different venues that there are nowadays, you know. And this is, of course, really en moda, you know.
La moda, sí, you know.
And well, so, I got to learn how to do this kind of stuff.
Well, you know, we only learn how to swim when we get thrown in the water. No.
That's right.
And I'm throwing you in the water today.
That's right. You are, David.
Well, thank you for coming with us and saying yes to this one, because it was just an idea that I have. I mean, as I've told you, I mean, I look up to your successes that you had with Comerciantes Latinos Asociados. I remember the first time I went to a meeting was some 10 years ago. Mm-hmm. And I still remember it was in Cusatlan, right there in Escondido on Grand Avenue. Mm-hmm. And I walked in there, and this is me coming from a Chamber of Commerce role with the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce and Hispanic Bankers Association, and it's a lot more of a corporate feel. Yeah. And I walk in, and everybody there is down to earth, solopreneurs, entrepreneurs, small businesses, and just all bringing community together. And that's the success that I saw from my perspective. So today we get to talk a little bit about that success of what you did with CLA and where you are now and where you came from and things like that. So that's my goal today, Bill. So I appreciate you.
No problem, Dave.
In coming here. So CLA, what an idea. Mm-hmm. How did it start?
Well, it started when pretty much in the 90s, you started to get that anti-immigrant feel, you know. The political situation in Escondido and throughout the country, you know, was starting to look at immigration as a topic,
right?
A hot button point, you know. And so I saw that, and I had a couple of friends that you know, thought that there was something that we could do about that,
right?
You know. And one of the things was to improve our image in the community, because yes, there was a lot of things going on, and a lot of tienditas with cardboard signs and stuff like that. So, you know, we decided to put something together in an organized fashion, and we did it. And you know what? It was funny, David. It seemed like people were just waiting for us to come along to put it all together. Like, they also wanted to see some movement. They also wanted to see some progress, and we were the right place at the right time. You know, it was late 90s. Communities were changing a lot. Politics were becoming more and more in your face.
Right. And
so we decided to take the plunge, and we did, and we were, I would say, we were very successful.
So when was the first CLA meeting?
1999.
And where was it at?
We had it in Escondido at a restaurant that no longer exists because that shopping center. No, it was a Mexican restaurant. Okay. One of the things that we always wanted to do, we wanted to utilize our Latino businesses.
Right.
You know, we could have gone to a Denny's or any of those other ones, but said, no, let's use our Latino businesses. Let's make them part of this, you know, and also so they see what we do.
Right.
You know? And so we did. And one of the things that I had been around enough, I'd been involved enough to know that, you know, having good speakers, having topics that are relevant are important, you know, if you want to change people's mind. We knew at our very first meeting, and we planned, I'd say, 3 months ahead of time, maybe meeting twice a week, you know, because we knew that we had to plan this meeting and it had to be a success from the very first one. Otherwise, you know, you lose credibility, and it's just that much tougher. And so we had a very successful meeting. People came out, you know, liking what they heard, liking the people they saw around the table. They were just like them, and the topics that we brought to the table, the questions that we asked, the information that we gave, was all relevant because we knew we were all Latino business owners, and so. Being a business owner, to me, you know, I didn't really have much formal schooling or anything like that. But to me, being a business owner, starting a business, I didn't even know anyone who had a business at that time, you know. And so going through that whole process was one heck of a learning curve for myself, you know. And I always say, when I finally closed the business down 20 years later, I felt like I had 3 diplomas in my back pocket from universities, because you learn so much.
What's it called? The University of Hard Knocks, I think they call it.
Yeah, I guess so.
And what type of business was it?
It was a party supply business, right. And it kind of was a business that I started because I like to party. And they always say, if you're going to do something that you like to do, right? If you're going to start a business. But in this case, it backfired on me, because instead of going to parties and party, no, all of a sudden I had to be responsible for certain things, and so it took a little bit of the fun out. But you know, the good thing was I did get to go to a lot more parties than I had previously. You know,
right.
so it was good. But just dealing with landlords, dealing with zoning, dealing with city hall, you know, it could have been overwhelming, you know, the tax codes and employees and all that. It was just so much you had to learn.
Right.
And this was pre-computer. You know.
So you're still doing bookkeeping with ledgers, with real ledgers, not computer.
Real ledgers, wow. Yes. Uh-huh. So it was very interesting time in my life. You know, I never ever dreamed that I was going to be a business owner.
Right.
But the circumstances took me to make that decision. Right. You know, I worked in a slaughterhouse before that. You know, I worked at a place called Taloni's.
I remember Taloni's.
We do 200 head a day. You know, so I went from working with a knife in my hand, 8 hours a day, to tying balloons and making balloon arrangements. And
then did you work in a bank as well?
Yes,
down the road. Huh?
Yeah, right. That was about that was probably. I started my business in 1983. 1983. In 1999, the bank where I used to bank, you know, used to be across the street, and I'd walk across the street, and I barely fill out a deposit slip, you know. And I walked in, and when my primas worked there, you know, and she said, "Oh, Billy, come here." And I went over to her desk. She says, "The owner of the bank wants to talk to you." To me?
Right.
And I said, "Why? You know, why?" I knew who he was. He was the ex-mayor of Escondido, called Jim Rady. You know? Okay. So I walk into his office, and he says, "Bill, I've heard some things about you in the community, and some of the things that you've done, and some things you're doing now. And I'd like to propose something to you." And I said, "What's that, Jim?" He says, "I'd like you to start a Latino bank." And I thought to myself, "Oh my gosh, another learning curve, you know." But at that time, you know, politics was kind of conflicting in Escondido, and I said, "Oh, well, let me think about it, Jim, because you know, this is a big step for me to start it like that. I know nothing about banking. Like I said, I could barely fill out my deposit slip, you know." And so anyway, I said, "Jim, I'm going to be visiting Mexico. I'm going to go see some relatives down there. If you want to start a bank, a Latino bank, well, let's see what the model is down there." And so when I went down there, I made it a point to go to a lot of different banks and see how they were set up, see how customers are treated, and how staff se comporta, you know, and under those types of circumstances. So I did, and I came back, you know, kind of excited, you know, and I went to Jim and I said, "Well, you know what? I did do a little homework while I was down there, and I think it's something that could be done, and I think a lot of our community, because, you know, you got to remember, Escondido, still at that time, the basis, a lot of Latinos were still a little bit in agriculture."
Right.
And he was looking at, you know, the unbanked. That was a big call in those days. I said, "But I think we could set up a bank that would work with that." But I was still a little bit leery because at that time I was kind of a little bit involved in politics, and I was kind of all over town at that time, you know. I said, well, I kind of felt, well, maybe they're trying to, you know, goof with me a little bit, you know. Right. But I went out and I did some more homework on Jim's character and personality within town and some of the things that he did. And I remembered, he said, Bill, if you really want to help your community, you'll start this bank.
Right.
And so eventually we did. In 1999, I opened up the bank, and shortly after that, I started the CLA. And
I say it looks like you almost collaborated, almost happened at the same time, then, right?
Correct. Yeah. At that time, I was also on the Latino Hispanic Advisory Council at Cal State San Marcos.
Gotcha.
Don't ask me how I got there, but I was a chair of the council for 6 years. You know.
Well, sometimes if you don't show up, they give you the. Not just kidding. Yeah. I always like it. No, but no, that story I've heard the story before, and that's why I just wanted to share it with everybody else, because I mean, you talk about success. I mean, you're in the middle of North County in the '90s, and the Latino population wasn't as what it is now, and the voice wasn't as strong as now. I mean, I think you led that flag and started getting that voice heard by doing what you did. But what I always like about it is not just gimme. You actually gave back.
Yes.
And that's what I loved about Comerciantes Latinos Asociados, is like, how many businesses do you think you touched?
Well, you know, I'd like to say, I think one time I was asked, and I probably mentored, I'd say a good 150 businesses. You know, back in that, people was just starting out. Just one quick little story. I remember there was a familia that was starting a restaurant.
Right.
But, you know, there's so many Mexican restaurants in Escondido at that time, they said this. So they started a Chinese restaurant. And I said, okay, well, that's good. They're thinking on their feet, you know. But I remember the night before, I got a call and said, Mr. De La Fuente, tenemos una cash register, and we don't know how to set it up. And I said, okay, don't worry, I'll be down there. And I wasn't that great at doing it either, but I had experience by then, you know. Right. So I went down and set it up, you know. And what I liked about it is they were taking a chance. The whole family was taking a chance, you know. And I always like to think that you know, if a business calls the president of the chamber of commerce, will you come down and do this? You know, probably, you know, it ain't gonna happen, you know.
Right. I don't.
But us, we were tight, and we would make things happen, you know. And so.
Well, that's what I like about our community. And I say our community being Latino, and you know, being my family's Mexican. I think we found out we have a connection somewhere with the De La Torre. I think was it.
De La Torre.
Yeah. So is that, you know, sometimes a small Latino business that's starting up, he or she's afraid to ask, and that's where I believe in what one of my personal missions is, how do we support those individuals? And I mean, with the success you have, I mean, that's why I always say you're a role model, because how do we find people like yourself and bring in more people to help out those other people? It's so important right now to us. But what drives you? What made you do all this?
You know, I think I was driven because the time I grew up. You know, I always say I was born in the 40s, grew up in the 50s, got my attitude in the 60s, and in the 60s there was a lot of attitude, man. You know?
And your attitude could have gone the other way.
Oh yes. I did for a while.
Okay.
You know, I did a little, but anyway, I think all that excitement, you know, there's kind of like a whole social change.
Right.
It really impacted me, and I didn't know how much it impacted me, but it did. You know, we had the first real Latino Mexicano that was our first role model was Cesar Chavez.
There you go.
And so during that time is when he was very active. I used to pick lettuce, and I remember when we go out in the bus in the morning from the camps.
Right.
I could hear the other workers talk, "Ay, que hay un señor que está haciendo un movimiento allá en el valle," and I remember hearing that, you know. And so, you know, one of the things I love to do is I love to read. So I started reading up, and I like to read the newspapers and everything like that, and I started reading about it. And so he was a big influence. I always say that he's the one who gave us a voice, he inspired me. You know?
Wow.
He inspired me. So that was a changing point in my life, in my attitude, and making things happen through organization and through doing it the right way.
Right.
You know.
Well, I always say you gotta give till it hurts sometimes.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But you always have to take care of the house first.
Yeah.
And was your family, your parents, your brothers and sisters, were they involved in any of this, or?
No. Because I'm originally from San Francisco.
Okay.
And when I came down here, I think I first walked into Escondido in 1968.
Okay.
I was in the military still,
Okay.
but I had a girlfriend here, and eventually I ended up getting married to her. You know,
Good.
and so it was completely different, the dynamics from an inner city, you know, to Escondido. You know,
Day and night. Yes.
Yeah.
So you've had a lot of your successes you've had. What's one of the most successes or a couple successes you're most proud of?
Well, David, I think the thing that I'm most proud of, and is that I had the ability, I was given the opportunity to affect change, to improve people's lives, to empower people. That's, to me, that's what I count as a success. You know,
Right.
It's you know, I used to work with students. I've had student groups that I headed up, and to see them grow and become something. That's why I always say, with teachers and stuff like that, you guys are lucky. Yeah, we might not get a big paycheck, but you always have that kid that you might have inspired,
Right.
and they come and they tell you, that's big, man.
Well, just at the last foundation scholarship presentation, which we'll talk a little bit later about, you had those teachers and those students that just gave the accolades to that person that believed in them, which is the teacher.
Yeah.
You know, we have our family unit, but then you have the family at school.
Yes.
And those positive teachers that are there to really aspire and give, make a big impact on that student. Just to me, what you did, and you impacted businesses that may not have had that education opportunity, but you inspired them just like that teacher did.
Well, I'll tell you, one time I went to get something reupholstered, and it's a little shop right there on East Valley Parkway. It was a little side business on one of the buildings at the far end of town. And I went there, and so the guy said, "Okay, I'll do that." So later on, when I went to pick it up, he said, "Ya está listo?" He said, "Yeah, it's ready." And so he gave it to me, and I paid him, and I said, ¿Tú no das recibo? You don't give a receipt. Oh, pues no, señora. No. So I said, this is a guy that I want to help.
Right.
You know. So I started working with them. You know, that's when I was at the bank, and I showed them, okay, you should have 2 bank accounts, one for your business, one for this. You know, how to set up books and how to run a business the right way, so you grow, so you know you don't fall down with one little thing. You know.
Right.
So I made it a point to work with those businesses that could use that little bit of education, you know, that I had to learn, because I didn't know it myself, you know. I had no idea until, you know, it was necessary.
Well, I always say you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
And sometimes in my experience, what I don't know bit me in the butt really bad. I mean, I always tell people, because when I first got out of high school, I went to college, but I got interested in photography, but then I got interested in work, and then I had a decent career, but then I went back into photography, and I failed really bad. Mm-hmm. But, you know, I always tell people, my joke is, you know, you either fall on your butt or fall on your face.
Yeah.
You know, I always tell people, I'd rather fall on my face, because at least I'm moving forward.
Yeah.
But did you have a mentor?
You know, I didn't really. Did I say that I had a mentor? No, but I had people that inspired me.
Right.
Two people that really inspired me, of course. You know, one was Cesar Chavez,
Right.
and the other one was Mahatma Gandhi.
Wow.
And those two, because one of the things that I like to do was to read, and I had read those both their stories, and I liked it. I liked the thought process. I liked the strength that they showed against overwhelming odds, big money and everything else that has politics and everything. So that was my that I call my mentorship, you know.
Right.
The other person was a little señor que se llama Mr. Morales that had a party supply shop down there in 26th and Market in San Diego. And I remember the first time I walked into his business because I wanted to augment my supplies up there. And this guy, he was 90 years old. He still went to work every day in his little troquita. And all his employees, at first, for a long time, I thought they were his kids. But no, that's just the way he treated people. And he had, in those days, he would do $1 million a year.
Wow.
Back in those days. That's like, $5 million.
Oh, yeah.
Now, But he's very humble, he loved people, And so he was my mentor in business.
See, and those are the people I think are so important for our community to have success, the Latino community and just in the community as a whole. Because sometimes we get so driven, or people get driven so by greed and ego.
Oh, yeah.
And that, to me, I don't know if it's good or bad that it doesn't attract me like it used to when I was young. I mean, we always, I was talking to, I don't think you met Hernando. He owns a Lotte restaurant. And he's his late 20s, graduated from Cal State San Marcos, and his hope for being such a young fellow, he's focused on business. He doesn't want to go buy pretty rims for his car and get a loan for his car. He's driving an old car, but he's buying businesses. He just opened up his third restaurant. He's under 30 years old.
Oh, yeah.
That we just get so hung up on that bling bling. But
yeah,
if you weren't doing what you did this whole career path, what do you think you would have been doing?
Well, David, I was all right as a businessman. I was all right as working in the slaughterhouse and doing all the different. I've done a lot of different jobs. I was in the military, but I wouldn't do anything else because I found myself. Yes, it's not something that's lucrative or something that brings me a lot of attention, but it fills me.
Right.
And when you find that spot and it fills you, that's worth $1 million, man.
Take it to the bank.
Yeah. So I wouldn't do anything else.
Right.
This was my little slot in life where I finally found myself, being involved in the community in a lot of different ways. And that was just in the CLA. There's just a lot of different areas that I got involved in.
Well, I tell you, I like what the conversation we had offline about CLA, Comerciantes Latinos Asociados, is that although, how long has it been since you retired from it?
Well, we put it to sleep
there you go.
In 2015.
But 2015, it's almost what?
Yeah,
it's going to be 10 years.
10 years, yeah.
But look at that, still lives.
Oh, yes.
I mean, it's not a physical thing. It's a state of mind to me. What CLA was.
Well, you look at because now we have the foundation,
right.
But who makes up all 3/4 of our sponsorship of our foundation was our familia that we put together in the CLA, and it's incredible. People, that doesn't usually happen, especially small business. One thing I've always admired the strength of small business when it's organized,
right.
And to me that's where it's at, is being able to organize. I always said Latinos, in our community, hard workers, talented, but we needed organization. And so when I started the CLA, I said, okay, this is the way we could help our community progress and really change the image, show that we could do our part in our community, that we don't need someone else to come and help us. We have the ability to make things happen. And we did,
right.
And that's how we got the respect of city governments, all across North County, And
that's what we do. We build our strength that way. And one thing not too many people know, Bill, I mean, and you probably could figure this out. When I started what we call Cafecito Business Networking, back then, the original name was called Cafecito con Pan Dulce.
Oh, yeah.
That was my name.
Good.
And going back to what you're talking about, the Latino businesses and everything else, I was working with a Chamber of Commerce in Oceanside, and our whole goal was to outreach to the Latino community. And attending your events and supporting what you're doing was important to me. And when I got put on this position, I was trying to do my best to get people to come to events, but Latinos wouldn't come to the event. So I go, well, instead of making people come to us, let's go to them. and seeing a little bit of what your model is. Well, that's where Cafecito was born. So thank you for CLA for giving birth to Cafecito, and here we are.
Well, I'll tell you how, and I was famous for that. That was before I had a cell phone in my pocket or anything like that. And pretty much was just going and visiting people. And when you're in business, you kind of know the dynamics of walking into a business. Right. It clicks with you. You could see right away, okay, this guy's just an employee, or there's the owner right over there.
Right, right.
So you know how to maneuver in a business and talk to them because you've gone through the same issues that right. they have. So right away there's a relationship. And that's how I did it. Just a lot of one-on-one. Right. I used to have my list, and I used to go down and make 50, 60 telephone calls, and I was maybe 40 of them show up, but that was good.
Well, it's the numbers that funnel. No matter how many people you invite, they're not all going to show up.
Oh no.
But I always think it's like when I do Cafecito, if only one person shows up, that's a one-on-one to me.
Yeah.
And do you remember Samuel Ray Bakery with Jose and Saula?
Yeah.
I mean, that's where we were first at Cafecito, and I think you used to do some events there as well.
Oh, yes, we did.
But what a dynamic couple.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, the success that they've had and were they from Oaxaca? I can't remember where they're from.
They might be.
Yeah. But starting a bakery, starting the restaurant, and my heart goes out to supporting them however I can.
Oh,
and
yes.
They know I'll be there for them.
Yes.
And that's why I like that.
And they got good chilaquiles.
Let's see, what's my favorite thing on their menu? God, there's too many things, but I'm a sweet guy. I mean, I work on my figure, so I do their empanadas all the time.
Yeah.
But, continue to where you're at. I mean, it's just like this next phase that after a CLA, when the pause, I think what you call it sleep, which I like that. Is you start this foundation as well. And education is so important. And what is the foundation's goal?
Well, actually what happened, David, was on 2015, our very last meeting of the year was a joint meeting where it was our awards night where we gave our scholarships away. And so that particular night, it was, I said, okay, that's it, I'm done. And then from out of the back of the room, I see this great big banner say Bill de la Fuente Scholarship Foundation, and several of my directors walking up to the front with it. And I said, well, what's happening, And then finally I figured, oh no, these guys. And then before they even reached me, I said, they're not going to let me take a break. They're going to put me to work.
Is that the banner you still have up there?
No, this is another one. But it was good because I was too young to retire anyway.
Well, I knew you always the CLA always had a scholarship component to it, didn't it?
Yes, right from the very beginning, from our very first meeting, David. I remember at that restaurant. I can't remember the name of it, but I remember we paid the restaurant because I didn't want anything for free. Right. I wanted them to make some money, and I think we had $32, and Ernie, who was taking care of the door, he says, Bill, we have $32 we made. And in those days, it was maybe like 60-something bucks now. But I said, okay, Ernie, here's what we're going to do. We're going to save all our money, and at the end of the year, we're going to give a scholarship or 2 scholarships away, right. However much we have. And from then on, all the money that we brought in went to scholarships. Right. We didn't have a year-end party for ourselves. We didn't have nothing. I was so proud of whenever we would sit down for a meeting. I say, okay, well, we're going to need this and this and this and this, and I passed the paper around the thing. And by the time that paper came back, everyone would sponsor this. And if we were going to send some kid on a trip to go play a game or something like that, we'd just go around the table and we would make it happen. So it was a beautiful family, and we were all on the same mind. We saw the ability of our community to step up to the plate and not depend on anyone else. One of the things that made me think the way I do is because for a long time I was on a lot of different committees in Escondido and stuff, and I was the only Latino. And you always felt, like the token, but I didn't care. I was learning.
Right.
I was learning how to do things, and so when I started the CLA, I said, you know what? Now we're going to have our own committee, and we're going to work for our things. And I remember people from other groups would say, Bill, do you need our help to do this or do it? I always say, we could do it ourselves. Why? Because even though, I was the one token Latino on there, you felt, we have to help the Latinos, we have to do this. And my message to them was, we could do it ourselves.
Right.
We have the ability to make it happen, So that was a strong point and what drove me back in those days,
And that's a good drive because, bringing people together was what I saw from you, but bringing positive people that want to do something better for the community. Because, the other element, there's always going to be those naysayers, but how you brought those people to the room and they're still there with you.
Yeah.
Well,
and I used to tell them, and people used to ask me, Bill, why do you do this just for Latinos? I said, well, because it's an untapped resource. We gotta help ourselves come to fruition within the community and get the respect. People will respect strength. People don't respect charity.
Right.
And a lot of times we were looked at as, okay, we got to help the Latinos do this, So that's where a little bit of militancy from the 60s, comes in,
With your brown beret? No.
Well, it just, I don't know. I needed to prove that we could be a benefit to the community, and just stop all those naysayers, And I could have been a radical and yelled on the corners and all that. But no, I said, let's do something.
Right.
Let's do something. And that was one of the ways of doing it,
And that's why I never knew that part of you, but it's so true. You could be that radical and have some success, but you could have more success in numbers by building community.
Oh, yeah.
With positivity. Yeah. I always like was it the blood drive?
Oh, yeah, Latino blood drives,
yeah.
Well, I'll tell you, the whole thing was that I wanted to show a positive image, And I think I've told you the story before about the article that came out in the paper back in I think it was the late 80s,
right.
And said Latinos, all the immigrants are using all the blood. Our blood banks are dry. And I thought to myself, I got mad when I read that, I hear they're, throwing blame on us, but I said, okay, well, that might be so. But you know what? We're going to fill up that blood bank. Mm-hmm. And that's when I started doing my Latino blood drives. And it was very successful. I added, it was calculated by the Red Cross, that over 1,000 Latino blood donors came in all those drives, and became long-term donors. Matter of fact, I still donate blood today.
Well, I donated my blood for the first time several years ago. Thank you for that too. Yeah. What? So going forward, the foundation right now is giving out scholarships. And what was the last scholar? How many scholarships they give away?
We gave 10 $1,000 scholarships away.
Mm-hmm. My favorite story that sticks to me is this Ceci. So here's a scholarship recipient, and what happened to her?
Well, she went to school. She went to school and got all her abilities down, and she opened up a business right on Grand Avenue in Escondido, very visible, a prime location, and she's been very successful doing it. And every time I pass by there, I'm happy because I said, see, this little girl, with that little bit of help, a little bit of support from the community. Look at what she's done. Now she's become part of the community. And that was always a big thing, David. When people would ask me, okay, you're just trying to help the Latinos. No. If Latinos become successful, if Latinos reach their full potential, the whole community gains from that. We'll pay more taxes, have better streets, better lights. And I always thought of it, people ask me, what is it you have to? I say, I want to build community, and I want us to be part of it.
Right. For numbers speak for themselves. 50% approximately of the population in North County is Latino in certain communities, more, some less, of course. Yeah. What would you what advice would you give to a younger Bill?
Well, to younger Bill, I would say, get yourself educated.
Right.
Because that's always been somewhat of a handicap for me, you know, and that's always cracked me up when I was chairman of the Latino Advisory Committee at Cal State San Marcos, you know. I say, this guy did it. But life takes you in funny ways, you know.
Right.
But, you know, I would say to the young kids, you know, just like I said at the event the other night, don't forget your values.
Right.
Look at your community. Look at the effort your parents have put in to raising you, you know. Don't forget that, you know. We have a lot to learn from that, and that gives you the strength, you know. And my mother was a fantastic person. I always say she was a saint. I always call her a saint, you know. And I said, and she's even better than a saint, because this saint knows how to cook.
I was gonna say,
Yeah.
I thought I felt that one coming, Bill.
Yeah. And so, but she was her middle name was Auxilio, and that's help.
Okay.
And so I got probably a lot of my attitude from my mom, you know, honoringness from my old man, and from my mom is help, you know.
So I mean, I got a question about your mom. What was the favorite thing that she baked, that she cooked, that you liked?
Chilaquiles.
Chilaquiles. I see a pattern here.
Yeah.
So you like the chilaquiles at Sandy Ray Baker? Where else do you like chilaquiles at?
Well, I'll tell you, so many places don't do chilaquiles good anymore.
Right.
They try to take the shortcut, you know. And so chilaquiles, you know, when you cut your tortillas, you cut them a certain size. They don't give you those big chips that they just dump out of a bag.
Right.
No, they cut their
so how do you like yours cut? I'm going to say my mom used to cut them in strips.
I like them and smaller.
Yeah.
Smaller, you know. And I like them kind of crispy but kind of mushy at the same time, you know. And it's got that texture, you know. And of course the salsa and everything, arriba, el quesito and all that. It's a good feeling meat, and with some good frijoles and arroz. Man.
Now I'm getting hungry.
Oh man!
Denise stopped by and she says she loves caldo.
Uh-huh.
Do you know any place that has caldo con tuétano in town?
You might try Lourdes over there on Escondido Boulevard.
I'll try that.
And because they're pretty famous for their caldos. I know they're very famous caldo de pollo.
Yeah, their chicken soup.
But you know, with tuétano, that's probably where you're gonna find it.
Yeah, I'm still on a mission. I found my milanesa. So over here, Mestica ice cream has the tortas there, and their milanesa is my favorite over there.
Milanesa is good.
So no, have you? I mean, with all your learning that you've done, you say you love to read. Which is one of your favorite business books that you'd recommend to a young Latino business or young entrepreneur that's starting a business? What would that book be?
Well, I never read a business book. No, I never. And really, I don't know. I kind of just let my heart guide me,
right?
You know. And for young, you know, just you got to know all your basics, and you have to be very aware of what's happening politically at all times,
right?
Because one change of administration could change everything and everything that you know. So you have to learn flexibility along the way, you know, because it's not always going to be your way,
right?
You know, and you know, we have to be very prepared for that, you know.
Yeah, it can change really quickly, huh?
Yeah.
I think I got one more question I just want to ask you, because I mean, I got this passion for North County, and you guys, everybody knows the brand. It's My Saint of North County, and my whole thing is almost like what you're building community. My thing is, how do I bring people together? North County has 10 different incorporated cities, 10 different mayors, and God knows how many business groups and everything else. So I'm very business supported, and now with the Small Business Development Center that I work with. But what is your favorite thing about North County?
My favorite thing about North County is it's a very workable area. You know, it's not like being up in LA or being in the East Bay. You know, it's an area where there's small cities.
Right.
But everyone knows someone else in the next city. Everyone knows, and so there's a lot of relationship, you know, between all these communities, and it's very. We're like, I don't know, kind of like familia, but you know, maybe not quite as close to familia, but very doable to be able to organize this area, and you all share that commonality, you know, of our main artery, which is 78, you know, and that's a lifeblood, you know, right? That's 78.
Well, we make it happen. I always say my tagline is we make it happen one cafecito at a time.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
Well, Bill, this has been an honor to have you here join me. Your first time doing a podcast and my first time being here with you. But, my passion is always going to be there to live up to what you've done. And so I appreciate you and I value the relationship we have, and I respect your successes so much.
Thank you, David.
And we're going to make something better. Si se puede.
Si se puede. And being a more integral part of the community, knowing your civic issues is very important. Right. And that's one thing that we still have to work on. There's a lot of people out there that don't know how to deal with civic issues, right. And they need to know about it because it affects everyone.
And you don't have to wait till we're out of school. They get active in their student government.
Oh, yes.
And be volunteer at whatever other place they can. So I understand that. And, if it wasn't for me in student organizations when I was at San Diego State, I don't think I would be who I am right now. Yeah. I got involved in student organizations, and it made all the world to me to the point. I haven't said this to anybody else. I want to support your foundation with a scholarship, but here's my how they have special scholarships or whatever, 4A's club and all this stuff. Yeah. I want to start a scholarship that is going to be dispersed to any working student, and it's not going to get the money at the beginning of the year. Guess when I'm going to give him the money? I want to have them get rewarded the scholarship funds equal to 2 weeks of their pay. So whatever they get paid for 2 weeks, and they get awarded the scholarship, but the money gives to them during their finals. I'm going to go talk to their employer, and I'm going to say, please give the student 2 weeks off. I'm paying his salary. That was my scholarship idea that I've had since I was in college, because I didn't finish college when I was at the appropriate age, because that, my biggest failure in life when I was in my 20s is I couldn't finish a degree because I had to choose between work or school. So I want to make sure the next generation, that somebody like myself that gets stuck in that dilemma, that there's an opportunity for them. So I somehow in the next several years we'll get something funded like that. So if we get a group of working students that they're working and they can't finish their finals because of work, which is what happened to me, I want to make sure I cover that for them.
Yes. And just one last thing, about the foundation, one thing I'm trying to do now is I'm trying to get young blood in there to take over, because I do have an expiration date, it's coming up,
Well, we can put you on ice and freeze.
But I think that's important, and even though CLA, I put it to sleep, it still exists. Right. I could call on any of my members right now and they say, what do you need, Bill?
Well, I'll be, if you ever call me and need my help, I'd be there too. So here's a call to action. We said this before. I'm looking for the next Bill de la Fuente. I want that 25, that 20-ish, 30-ish type, or 40-ish even, entrepreneur, business professional, anybody out there that really wants to have a heart for learning business or is in business, that understands the value of giving back. Yeah. So that's my mission, because I got my expiration tags. It renews in 10 years, so we'll see. So we'll be there with you. I thank you once again, Bill. We're going to sign off.
Okay, David. Thank you very much for inviting me.
You're welcome. This is David Zamaya. We're here at Cafecito Podcast, sharing the best in North County. And today we were celebrating culture and celebrating successes. So thank you very much to Bill de la Fuente.
Okay, David. Thank you, man.